think more than anything else, we want to bring awareness to two schools that have been mired in sexual abuse and cover-up and corruption for over the last 50 years. And that's something that we want to also concentrate on today. We know the game's going to be a great game. It's going to be a battle. But there's also another fight that's happening off the field, and that is to have justice at two universities that are probably two of the most prominent sports universities here in America. And that's why I have Rocky Ratliff, who is a Strauss victim, standing here alongside an Anderson victim, because we feel like our voices together are stronger than our voices separate. So let me introduce you to Rocky Ratliff.
Good afternoon. My name is Rocky Ratliff. I am a Dr. Strauss survivor from The Ohio State University. I wrestled at the university from 1995 to 1997. I'm also an attorney licensed in the state of Ohio. I represented 48 other victims in the Richard Strauss case. 7 of the victims settled, 42 were dismissed by the federal court. We are currently under appeal. I learned about John Vaughn from a media representative from NBC named Corky out of New York. He asked me about Mr. Vaughn and how he was camped out in front of the president's house. I immediately got on to learn. I knew about the Dr. Anderson and the victims of Dr. Anderson in their case, but I did not know that one of the victims had started a camp out in front of the president's house. So I immediately got on, felt compelled to come that weekend. That was on, like, I think a Wednesday night. I came that first weekend that John Vaughn was here, and I've been coming up pretty much every weekend since to show my support for John Vaughn, because John Vaughn and the victims here in the Dr. Anderson case are getting the same rhetoric from the University of Michigan that we got at The Ohio State University. And that rhetoric is that Mr. Vaughn and all these other victims are brave for coming out. And we're going to offer and try to get fair resolutions to their cases. But what they're really offering is hush money to go sit in the corner so John Vaughn and the rest of the victims up here in Michigan will go away. Because the University of Michigan, as well as the Ohio State University, are all about their brands. They're about big business. They're about money. It's not about survivors. They're not about the students anymore. And just to give you some background, the Ohio State University grosses about $7.8 billion a year. Only $985 million are tuition and fees. So we're talking about big corporations, big business, and that's why victims of sexual abuse are being dismissed. Ohio State and the University of Michigan have a big game this weekend. We are going to be up here in solidarity. Me and Mr. Vaughn and a group of us are going to come up here to raise awareness for the sexual abuse survivors, not only in our cases, but those that are currently on campus that stop by and they sign Mr. Vaughn's support. They stop by and tell Mr. Vaughn how they were sexually raped and molested on this campus. And that's going on at The Ohio State University as well. These universities have offered no assurances that our current and future students will be protected. So we make sure that their voices are going to be heard. We are here talking for those that can't. So this weekend we're going to be up here. Now, these universities, meaning the University of Michigan and Ohio State, are supposed to be leaders in higher education. But all we've seen from them as to sexual abuse, sexual assault, rape, all we've seen, and I know they'll have great game plans this Sunday, but all we've seen is a game plan of how to conceal, cover up, and then eventually dismiss those victims and survivors. And that's why I stand with John Vaughn. And I understand today, and I'm sure I'll get questions about the statute of Mr. Schembeckler, the beloved coach here at the University of Michigan. It was defaced. It didn't come from me, it didn't come from Mr. Vaughn, it didn't come from any of our fathers. But it clearly shows the frustration of current students and the public as to how the victims are being treated here at the University of Michigan. Everybody here feels they've been dismissed, both then and now. I often wonder which is worse. if you knew about it, concealed it, and covered up, or you now know through your investigations, both here at University of Michigan and the Ohio State University, this happened. There was concealed and covered up, and now you know. Now you know. But just like those administrations and those boards back then, you're now dismissing them at the same rate. So this university needs to understand the frustrations of the current students, probably the state of Michigan, of how this is being dealt with. And it pains me as a survivor and an attorney that's heard countless stories. And I've set up here at this campsite we're at right now and heard students, current students, tell and pour their heart out to Mr. Vaughn and what he's doing here, thanking him for protecting them because this university and this president behind me failed to do so. And I've been up here and heard the stories myself. That they would issue today, this university would issue a statement that's harsher about some destruction of a statue of a man who either knew or was negligent in knowing that sexual abuse was happening amongst his team. At The Ohio State University, all the coaches knew. All of them. We spend 6 to 10 hours a day with those guys. They knew it was happening. So I don't know how Bo didn't know, but if he didn't, he was very negligent in not knowing. So when that happens, the statue actually gets defaced or some paints on it, and I don't condone any of that. That's public property. You shouldn't be doing that. But when their statement is harsher about property damage and we're going to go out and seek them, but yet they have people that concealed and covered up sexual abuse and molestation amongst their ranks right now, but don't issue the same harsh statements, it pains me. It's a slap to my face, Mr. Vaughn's face, everybody who signed that board. We should all be a little pissed off and a little ticked off of what is happening. And if this administration, the Board of Regents of the University of Michigan, the Board of Trustees at The Ohio State University, the governors who are here betting on this year's game, if they had half of that offense, or half of what it took that person to go, the fortitude to go do that in the face, if they had half of that internal fortitude, eradication of sexual abuse and molestation amongst their ranks at this university and the University of The Ohio State University wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. You have the biggest and brightest minds here and at Ohio State, and they have all the money, but yet they're doing nothing to protect their current students. And I'm appalled at it. And they should be embarrassed at the week of this game that that's the statement they put out. They've offered no statement in support of either the University of Michigan or the Ohio State University victims. Thank you. I'll take questions whenever you guys have questions. I'll turn it back over to what we consider. I mean, honestly, I'm here in the state of Michigan. We followed both the Michigan State females case with Dr. Nasser. We have followed John Vaughn and his case here with Dr. Anderson. And I can just tell you that the girls at Michigan State are 5'2" superheroes to us. I'm getting emotional about it. We wouldn't be here without those girls or Mr. Vaughn. He is a superhero, and we will follow him because he is now our chosen leader to get behind to try to eradicate some things here in our society. And really why we don't want to talk about it and why people don't want to talk about it is because the biggest, baddest dudes on our planet, I have UFC champions, Olympians in my group that I represent. And if someone like John Vaughn, or in my group, someone like Mark Coleman, who held the UFC heavyweight title belt in both Pride and the UFC, and he's a UFC Hall of Famer, if he can get sexually molested, any one of us in society can. That's why they don't want to talk about it. Because we're all vulnerable, and it's happening every day. And if we have to wake up and realize that someone like John Vaughn can be molested, any of our kids can be, we can be, and we don't want to face something like that. That 1 in 6 males are sexually molested, and they won't tell you until they're 52. That's what's currently going on, and we will follow Mr. Vaughn. Thank you.